Welcome to what has been a very chaotic stream. Apologies to anyone who sees this now or in the future or whatever. Technical difficulties have prevented us from doing our regular 12 o'clock time. It was a problem.
Yeah, you gotta love it when audio messes up because someone decided to implement, you know, things to do certain things, even though that's not what they're meant to do.
Yes, it's brilliant.
Mm. All right.
As we come into this wonderfully early 2000s ship.
Yes, yes. Here we have the lovely Halo with us, Halo CE, currently the enhanced edition, which will very soon go to the default original because that's always the best. Anyways, our topics for today are
Oh, we were modulating topics. It kind of got down to like three ideas.
yeah, we've got three main topics at the very moment. So I guess we'll just start with some Sea of Thieves.
Yes, Sea of Thieves. That was my agenda last night. So last night I was actually just grinding out the new expansion, the Sea of Thieves, A Pirate's Life. Wonderful expansion, absolutely beautiful. There was just, well, no, it was actually a very good expansion. I got to play with a trident, so that's always fun. Um, wasn't so good when, oh, there we go, the default kicked in,
Yep.
and there goes the lighting. Um, but yeah,
Fucking
no,
trident. God. I
unfortunately,
am
the thing breaks after.
Zeus. I
I'm
uh,
Zeus.
I will go and take lightning, earth, and water and combine them.
Honestly, it was a very fun weapon to play around with until I realized mid chaotic boss fight that the thing does not last forever and that it will dissolve after a decent amount of shots. So it's not like one of those one hit, wonders kind of thing. You can get a pretty decent amount of good shots out of it. But it's a bit of a pain in the chaotic fight when you realize that it has a certain amount of shots and then you are promptly killed. So that's fun. It's honestly a good expansion for anyone who wants to play it. It really revolves around the whole business of like they basically just stuck Jack Sparrow and Davy Jones and the
Kind of,
Black Pearl in Sea of Thieves,
it kind of
and
feels like they just kind of put it in to put it in. It's like, oh,
yeah,
it's pirates, Pirates of the Caribbean.
I wouldn't say it's to put it in to put it in. Don't get me wrong. It's certainly a crossover, but it's not one of those egregious crossovers where it's like one of your MOBA games where it's like, why are these characters in this universe? Why is this here? This does not make sense. It
Yeah.
actually feels like it makes a lot of sense, and they do actually do convincing amount of storytelling to kind of convince of why Jack is here to begin with. It's not just like a rift in the sky opened it and just spat Jack out in the Sea of Thieves, and Davy
No.
Jones soon followed.
The pits of hell and death finally opened, and he just walked through, like, ah, yes, I've
Hades
escaped
cracked
death
open, and
for the thousandth time now.
the pits of Hades cracked open, and from forth came Jack Sparrow.
Yeah.
No, they do actually do a good amount of explaining of why he's in there, and if it actually feels right because it's Jack Sparrow in a Sea of Thieves game, and they do actually do a good amount of like storytelling to justify and everything, and put make his presence feel believable.
Okay. That's good because that's better than a lot of games that just kind of put him in
Yeah,
Fortnite.
the sky just opens up and just out they come.
Ah, let's put Master Chief, Guardians of the Galaxy, all the Marvel characters, maybe eventually Superman and all them. Let's just put them in. Come on,
Put
Battle Royale.
Superman,
Come on, come on. It's
put
Battle Royale.
Superman, put Superman, Batman, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Why not? Just stuck them all in a giant
Abraham
pot.
Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln, for whatever reason, just start spinning around that pot, and out comes content sludge.
It's
But yeah, no,
ugh.
it's a good game. My one gripe about it though is that I had one glitch, and this was at 6 o'clock in the morning because I was actually doing it to get to get information enough to talk about during this stream today.
Mm.
And during the actual boss fight, it's hyped up that you're gonna fight this massive kraken, and it starts like you're under the water, right? So you're deep under the sea, and you usually don't get the chance to go deep under the sea into the sea floor itself because you'll drown well before you get there, or you'll get eaten by a
Die.
shark or a megalodon or whatever comes first, really.
You
And
know,
so you're given the chance to get down there, and you hear the siren song and da 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 da. So you get down there, you find the bottom of the sea, and after a little bit of a mission, you you basically run into the queen of all sirens, and she's basically just harping at you over what is essentially the mystical version of the intercom. And she basically releases this giant kraken into the ocean, and she goes on with how beautiful it is, and it was a gift from Davy Jones. Point being that this thing, after that, starts dogging you and just kind of starts kind of hunting you at the edges of your sight. Not while you're in the open sea, mind you, but while you're in like the structures under the sea. It'll like constantly swim around the edges, and the entire like underground place will shake violently, and its eye will just come crawling across the open window. Eventually, you piss off
looming
the queen
death.
enough. Looming death, right? Eventually, you piss off the queen enough where she gets so pissed off and just sicks this thing on you. Unfortunately, this was again at 6 o'clock in the morning, so you can imagine how I feel about this playing the entire thing. Side note, actually, most expansions in Sea of Thieves feel very one and done, though this could also be because there was no guide for it. It's hey, do a few missions, get a few things, go out. This actually had a few puzzles that, unless you know what you're doing and you actually use your brain a little bit, you actually will not be able to solve. But Sea of Thieves is kind of like that.
Mm.
But again, it's a pretty long expansion
It,
compared to
it's
most of the side
it's
missions.
a fairly open-based game where you can pretty much do whatever you want. There isn't much of a
Yes.
limitation on it.
Yes. Most of that, whatever you want, involves sinking other ships and
You know, killing other
sinking
players or
other
just
ships.
randomly going to different islands all the time. You know, whatever you
Sad
want.
truth, actually, while I was actually parking over the spot with the black pearl that sank, because this is actually the thing that leads you into going under the sea. It's to go and find the black pearl that sank there previously. Another person's ship was actually parked there, presumably doing the same mission I was.
Hmm.
Now, I could just be an absolutely shitty driver, pardon the language, but think of the stream. But instead of parking beside him, which is what I was trying to do, I ran into him and then bounced off his ship and then parked beside him. Quickly patched up the hole in my ship and then went under. I am presuming that since he was under the sea, his ship was slowly taking on water and eventually sank. Sorry?
So wait, in that game, don't you basically like die or fail or something when your ship gets destroyed?
Not necessarily, no. You will get a mermaid that'll start dogging you and be like, "I'll take you back to your ship," but you can choose to ignore them.
Okay.
Um, but no, if your ship sinks, everything on it will go with you, but you will yourself will not die. So you're fine if your ship sinks, presumably so long as you're on land. Now, if you're in the middle of the sea, well, then you're kind of screwed.
It's like open waters.
Waters. Then the sharks will get you.
Yeah.
But yeah. So back to the story. It's 6 in the morning, right? And just before I'm about to get the Kraken, she's like, release the Kraken, essentially. And the thing, the whole building shakes and the whole windows go dark, which is kind of a thing with Krakens because their inkiness just kind of covers the water. It's kind of a sign that they're around. I'm like, okay, here we go. I'm going to fight the Kraken. And then for whatever reason, my thing glitches. And I am just spat back out into the open sea. Not open sea, mind you, on top of it. No, no, no. Just in the middle of open water, under the water. At first, I thought I was dead because
Is
I
this the
actually died.
afterlife?
It was the afterlife. I came back. I went to the ferryman, which is a thing in Sea of Thieves, where when you die, you go to the ferryman. And the ferryman, you basically wait out a few minutes, and eventually he just spits you back out into the world of the living, presumably around or near your ship, if it sank, or just in general. Well, this time, instead of spitting me out in the quest, which is usually what happens during these quests, it spat me out just in the middle of the sea. I was surrounded by blue with like a golden light in front of me, and my first thought, I'm kidding you not, was literally, am I dead?
Am I dead yet?
Is this true? Is this the true afterlife? I thought this was part of the quest for a second, so I just like my literal gaming instincts was like, okay, swim to the light, and that ended up I drowned before I was able to get to the light. The first time,
Oh.
second time got to the light, only to realize it was the sun, and I was now sitting in the middle of the ocean
Ah, yes.
without a ship.
I'm safe.
I am
Not.
safe. Not.
Mm.
I had no idea what was going on. I was just shell shocked for a few seconds. I'm like, okay, this is
So
quest.
like besides that, for the most part, the update's fairly good. A lot of the content's pretty good. Oh, that's
Yeah,
on
no.
me.
I am
Yep.
trying not to blow yourself up. There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, a true Spartan savior of
Yeah,
humanity
you
right here.
know, you throw a grenade at a door, and instead of the door,
This is truly what they use
the
for
grenade just bounces off the door, it goes under you.
that's the clip they use for promoting the UNSC. They just show that clip and they're just like, "We want you on Sea of Thieves.
You are not as bad as the Master Chief. You can do better.
You're not as bad as this guy. Please, we need you. This guy's terrible at his job." But
Yeah,
yeah, no. Aside from that, the update's good. That was just a glitch that I encountered. I honestly would recommend it. It's a really fun update. They put a trident in the game, so that alone is enough for
that's
me to play it.
fun.
That's fun. I can't wait to see that being used in PvP because it's not just in the quests where you find this. In fact, side note, I actually woke up in the tavern one time, which is how you usually start out the game if you're in adventure mode. You just kind of wake up in a tavern somewhere. Presumably after drinking way too many pints of grog.
Just a couple too much.
Just a little too much. Just a little too much. And on the floor, for whatever reason, was just the trident. And this was actually long before I was actually supposed to get in the game. It was just sitting there on the floor of the tavern. And I'm like, okay,
That worked.
it's mine now. Mine now.
I'll take it.
One gripe I have with the trident is that, like most kind of ish weapons in the game, most kind of side objects in the game, once you pick it up, it's not like you can pick it up and start like cowboying, like using your flintlock to like you basically one hand your flintlock, even though that's just what happens in the game anyway. You actually cannot do anything else while you're holding this thing. So you're basically don't get me wrong, you can actually stab, and this thing actually has like a pretty decent like build-up attack you can use to destroy things with, but you cannot do anything else while holding this trident, so it does limit your options. But
Besides that.
besides that, it's pretty fun to play with, and I can't wait to see this in PvP. I can't wait to just run into a team just wielding all tridents. It's going to be utter chaos.
Yeah.
Especially if they come out of the sea randomly. But anyway, so that's Sea of Thieves. Very good update. Very good.
How much
Very.
like Pirates of the Caribbean based stuff did they put in really?
Actually, quite a bit.
Hmm.
They've got Davy Jones there. The Flying Dutchman makes a lot of appearances. The actual teaser to the beginning of the actual screen is actually shows Davy Jones's chest, which may or may not make an appearance. I've yet to get too far into the story. Obviously, Jack Sparrow's there. His second mate, I can't remember what his name is in the movie. Guy with the, well, I can't say guy with the beard. They all have beards.
Yeah, they all kind of have a beard.
They all kind of have a beard. But yeah, I can't remember his name. The big guy. He makes his voice actor makes an appearance in the game, and he makes an appearance in the game. And there's kind of a discount Tia Dalma in the game that tells you all these things. So it is a pretty. Oh, actually, Jack's famous compass also makes an appearance in the game. You actually get to play with it during that second mission I was on.
Oh, there you go. So like they put a lot of nods to it and all that, so that's good.
Oh yeah, yeah. And the second
They,
quest,
they
like
actually like made the update feel like it was part like bringing in everything
Yeah, yeah.
Caribbean.
Yeah, like I said, unlike most like kind of crossovers where they just kind of the sky opens up and they just get spat out into the world, they actually do quite a bit. For Rare, actually did quite a bit of back bending to like justify why they were there, and why
It doesn't feel like it. Oh, we're here now. No, it feels like it was actually worked on.
Yeah,
So,
no,
like,
it doesn't feel like
something actually had to happen.
Yeah, no, it doesn't feel like the sky just spat them out. And like I said, in the second mission, you go after the Black Pearl, so that's fun. It sank, but that's fun. So there's all that to work with.
That's good. That's good.
So yeah, that's Sea of Thieves, the Pirate's Life update.
I mean, those guys for the Sea of Thieves team tend to like have a lot of work put into their updates and stuff. from what I've
Ye-
seen. Like they've had a fairly bit like humble type of beginning where it's like we don't have a whole lot. You can just kind of move a boat around. Good luck, and then they've made it like this whole online world.
Yeah. I honestly have to give Rare credit. They have a pretty prestigious history when it comes to gaming, but this whole Sea of Thieves thing is a work in progress. The original Sea of Thieves was actually a 1990s game. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm not too sure.
From the early computer days, but it was like a low graphics, kind of just realistic pirate simulator that never really took off, as far as I'm aware. And
Well, I
then they
mean,
just basically just rebooted modern day.
yeah, I mean that's the one thing is the fact that like going and having it as an online type of game where you can kind of just do whatever you want with a bunch of people and you can just ran into anyone and everyone. Like it feels like a very good pirate simulator because of that, because it's like you don't know who you're going to run into. You could run into a friend or some guy who just wants to go on a murder rampage. Like
Absolutely, yes. That is why you run into other ships and your first instinct is one of two things. Is this going to be friendly or do I have to run on away fast?
do I have to pray that I don't die?
Honestly, especially if it's a big crew. Um, but yeah, it is I cannot give enough props to Rare with their latest project, the Sea of Thieves. It really is one of those passive wonders where it's in an MMO, but it's not your traditional MMO game where it's a massive time investment. And despite their okay, I'm gonna get this out of the way. There is a season pass,
Mm.
but that's not a bad thing for them. Why? Because unlike most season passes where the grind is excessive and stuff like that, and you have to do like 60 different quests to get like one or two levels. I was past like one of their entire bars of the 20 bar of the 20 bar season rank just by playing two of those missions, which they're called tall tales in the game.
So like it doesn't feel like it's taking forever, and you can
Yeah,
pay
no.
for like a little extra boost and help. It's not
Yeah,
like, oh yeah, you know, you pay to
that's the
win.
thing. That's the thing. You can't even pay to go up in the ranks. You actually physically have to do these things, and because they're not that long and that tedious to do, you don't like you wouldn't even be able to justify it.
There you go. That's good.
There is Premium Plunder Pass, which allows you to get like a second access to a second bar underneath it, but it's one or two extra things every one or two ranks, so it's not a massive.
It's not like you're gaining such a big advantage that it's
Yeah,
so unfair.
yeah, no, it's not even an advantage. Like 90% of the shit they have is cosmetic, and when I say cosmetic, I hate to hype up cosmetics for those who don't know, because anyone who knows me knows that I hate the fact that people nowadays go, it's just cosmetic, and yet you see things like
Yeah, but
Activision
cosmetic
having like
isn't
basically
really
paid
that much
camouflage.
yeah, that's the thing. Cosmetic isn't really that much content really when you think about it. It's just
Plus,
personalization to yourself, and that's it. Like,
I agree. I agree. It's also I hate the fact that people say though just cosmetic though, because anyone who knows, like for example, who plays Warframe, just another game off that I like to play,
hmm,
or Destiny. Well, Warframe. Let's go back to Warframe actually.
hmm.
Warframe is a game with a lot of cosmetics in it, and while it is a decent game, in the words of My Name is Bife, shout out to him, good lore guy for Destiny 2, cosmetics have kept that game alive.
Yeah,
People
yeah,
will pay a
Destiny.
premium to look cool.
Yeah,
So people who
Destiny's
just pay
been around not solely because of the content and the story
no
and all that,
Warframe.
but because for Warframe.
Yeah, no Warframe. Though
Okay.
Destiny is again, I'll give you credit, they are kind of leaning into that. So it's not
Yeah,
a bad idea. It's a good
Destiny's
source
been
of
getting
revenue.
Destiny's been getting a fair amount of content, and same
Let's not
for
even talk about
Warframe.
Transmog though.
Yeah.
Talk about that. Well, that's for another episode, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my
So
goodness, we've already burned off 30 minutes. Or what
yeah,
was it, 20 minutes?
good
Forgive me, ladies and gentlemen.
good couple.
It's hard for me to tell because we started late, but again, that's our fault.
Well, would you want to?
Oh, it's the computer's fault, but
Well, I mean, for what we have talked about, like Sea of Thieves has come up with their update for the Pirates of the Caribbean link, basically. And I mean, if
hmm
it's sounding as good as what you're saying, and you've played it for a little bit, then I guess they've done a pretty good job so far.
Yeah, and here's the funny thing. Despite all the shit they added, they do this thing where all their updates, in fact, I've yet to see a single paid update for that game.
Hmm.
All the shit they do is they just shit out. They just pop it out. No,
It's like,
to
oh,
bleep that later.
it
They just basically pop it
exists.
into the world. Yeah.
It's here now.
They just basically just pop it out into the world and they're just like, here, have fun.
Well,
So again, it's not a
as
very
long as it's not a, oh, I exist now type of thing, then things are pretty good there then.
Yeah, no. Again, it's a pretty good game. I would recommend it.
Hmm.
But moving on, switching topics, if you will,
Yeah, we
let's
can.
talk about something a little more controversial than a good game from a particularly well-loved developer. Cyberpunk 2077. Oh
Oh
yes, I can already hear
yes.
the famous clicking of the. I can already hear that typing of the keyboard now.
Everyone's freaking
Rage
out.
typing. Everyone's
How
freaking.
dare you?
I'm sure as soon as I said that, every one of our viewers, the hairs on the back
And
of their necks just
any
stood up.
viewer who watches this, future or current, just
You're probably thinking, if you haven't been following the news of the gaming cycle, allow me to catch you up. Recently, Cyberpunk 2077 has been brought back onto the PlayStation Store. Why was it gone to begin with? That's the funny thing. No one really knows. According to PlayStation, upon being asked, it's because they wanted to protect the people, or protect the people. By that I mean protect their their consumer base. Actually, don't let me use consumer. I hate that word. Their audience.
yeah.
The reason I hate consumer is because it just sounds so mechanical and just lifeless. Um,
It doesn't give it any real feeling to it. Like, oh yeah, this is someone who's actually gonna enjoy our game. This is just, oh yes,
yeah,
someone who bought another bar of soap for the
it
30th time.
it just makes you feel like you're just another number to buy the things, and just it was originally an insult. Essentially, that's what it was. Well, the term consumer was originally invented as an insult. Fun fact, but that's a side tangent. Anyways, basically they said they wanted to protect their audience from bad quality games. Which, say what you will about that statement, that's kind of funny considering some of the stuff on their store.
Yeah,
Um,
you
Though
know.
they do take a lot of interest in curating their stuff. I also say it's kind of funny considering Microsoft did nothing and they just kind of kept it on the store.
The Microsoft just leaves things half the time. They don't care
It's not,
100%.
and that's not a knock on Microsoft.
No.
It's actually kind of suspicious for Sony doing it because a lot of people theorize that the reason, or at least some people have theorized, some journalists in the industry have theorized that it might not actually be because this was about quality of Cyberpunk. In fact, all of this didn't come about until a big, I don't want to say scandal, but a big incident happened where the game was what it was, and a lot of people wanted refunds. Okay, here's the problem. Anyone who in the audience right now knows how the PlayStation Store works probably knows they don't have a good refund policy, or let me correct myself, any refund policy,
Yeah.
much like
You
Nintendo.
got game, you keep game, you own
You
now.
keep
Goodbye.
game. But everyone wanted a refund because Cyberpunk was Cyberpunk, sadly. And so basically, they wanted refunds. They didn't get it. Eventually, Sony caved and said, "Okay, we'll give you the refunds." And they basically had to go through this whole process of giving people's money back, which doesn't sound like a bad thing. It's not a bad thing, but if you're
No.
Sony, it's a bad thing.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you go and give someone back their money and, like, they're not happy with a product, doing that kind of goes and gives you a bit of good publicity, but, you know.
You'd think it would be. You'd think it would be a good thing for Sony, but again, Sony has this thing
I
as a
need
reason.
money.
I need
I mean,
it.
that's
That's
literally
another reference.
every company, though, but still.
Some more than most, admittedly,
Yeah.
though. But yeah, so some people think the whole reason Sony basically barred them from the PlayStation Store and dipped into Cyberpunk's already dwindling losses and CD's very, very low profit margins at the
Lowing
moment.
money.
Lowing profit margins at the moment is because basically they were putting CD and Cyberpunk by extension in a timeout for making them basically give people's money back.
Mm.
Um, which sounds evil because it is.
Yeah, you know.
The
Keep your
Sony
money.
being so recently it got put back on the store, and as of yet, I've yet to see how good it's doing. I'm hoping it's doing
I
well
mean,
because
from what
I,
I've heard, they've brought a lot of quality of life improvements to the game itself. So I don't see why it wouldn't, like, some people wouldn't start buying the game again. But I mean, with how
Mhm.
Sony has been with the game, it kind of makes people not so confident about getting it there.
Yeah,
Like,
and here's yeah. On that note, even when Sony put it back on the store, they even stressed before even putting it back on the store officially that while it you can buy it. They physically didn't recommend buying it on the PlayStation base console, PlayStation 4 base console, excuse me. They
Hmm.
actually recommended on a Pro at the base or preferably on a PS5 if you can get one,
Well done.
because that's just how it is. Me,
That's
I
how it
personally have played.
rolls.
I was actually lucky enough to get the game and play it on PS5 because I kind of call me call me a prophet, but I kind of foresaw this being a mess on the base PlayStation 4. A lot of the evidence being the case, so I kind of hedged my bets and played it on the PS5. While I did run into a few glitches, some of them quite funny, including cars just going to heaven for whatever reason.
Disappearing, or
Yeah,
being able to run down a slope and then start hopping around the map.
or just for whatever reason, just having my car suddenly take off like the car from Back to the Future, and it just suddenly starts flying through the air. Um, I believe that's a thing in Back to the Future. I hope I didn't make a reference that's not there. But
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
I just sound so uncultured right there. Um,
I know nothing of
I
this.
know nothing of this. But yeah, it was a decent game aside from the technical glitches. And the
Yeah.
game bone, the I like to say, and I like to agree with a lot of people who say that the base bones of the game are there. It's not one of those games that is kind of dead on day one where
Like
there's not even a
it's
base
not
version.
a complete broken mess. Like it's not crashing you. It's not bricking your
Oh no, it was doing that.
equipment. Like yeah, it crashed, but it wouldn't crash, brick your equipment. Like there's a few things it wouldn't do that some games do. So it wasn't as bad, but it was still pretty bad.
It was pretty bad, but my point was more along the lines the base bone, like the gameplay loop itself was good.
Mm.
A lot of people say in the games industry, and I agree with them, because I personally do believe this as well, that a lot of games these days are not only bad because their systems are egregious, like they've got egregious monetization, stuff like that, but the base gameplay itself isn't even addicting. A good
Yeah.
example I can point to this, for example, is Avengers. Marvel's Avengers from Square Enix. Sorry if you play that game. um,
But it's true.
we're going to be using it for. I'm sorry if you play that game. Disclaimer: we're going to be using it as a punching bag for a few minutes. um, the base gameplay is not too addicting. It's basically just go here, kill X thing, which is usually aim aim character number 347, defeat X supervillain for whatever reason. It's not the addicting gameplay loop. It just gets repetitive after a while, and it gets very repetitive.
It gets very boring because there's no variety to it. It's not like
Yeah,
some games where it's like I have a stealth option, I have a heavy option, I have a heavy option, I have a semi stealth option, I have a send in the cavalry option. Like there's not multiple ways of doing some things. It's just always kind
yeah,
of standard.
yeah. It basically just boils down to go here, clear out X aim facility, go here, claim out another aim facility. It just gets repetitive after a while. The gameplay loop can lose you very quickly. The base bones of the game are very undercooked.
Hmm.
Another, well, no, I wouldn't say Anthem. Anthem was, depending on who you ask, the bones were there because people like the idea of flying around the super suit of basically a
Yeah,
glorified Iron Man. But
it was there. It's just it didn't have everything
EA has this
nice.
policy of chewing up studios and spitting them out quite violently, which is
Yeah.
a shame. But back to the topic of CD. The CD's game of Cyberpunk, yeah, no, I'll keep that. I'll keep that. Is a it the base bones are there. The gameplay is fun. It is fun to run around Night City as a mercenary, you know, driving around them fancy cars, taking weird odd jobs, befriending sentient vending machines, because that's actually a mission in the game. Yes,
Befriending an AI gun.
befriending an AI gun, which
Like
I've yet to find that quest. I'm looking for it, but I've yet to
I'm
find it.
pretty sure it's like on an alley by like a
Don't
dead.
don't don't tell
I
me. Don't tell me.
I don't know. I don't know where it
Don't.
is exactly. All I know is like base information.
I want to have the fun of looking for it myself. I'm sorry if one of I'm sorry if one of our viewers was expecting us to give it, or expecting dear old
Yeah,
Justin to give
no.
it away.
I mean, I've never played the game. I've barely seen any gameplay. I've only seen like gameplay of that specifically because I'm like, okay, that's stupid and funny.
Honestly, there are some games that I do hope. I want most games to succeed. There are very few games I truly do wish never existed.
Yeah,
Uh,
there are some games that are just like, please don't see the light of day again.
like I want Cyberpunk to succeed. Why? Because again, the gameplay is fun. I can vouch for this personally. I've played it multiple times. I've never gotten to the end because I'm just waiting for the game to come out on PS5, which brings me to my second point. Is this game playable in its current state? Yes and no.
Hmm.
It is decent in its current. Well, it's buggy in its current state. It'll be buggy for a while.
There's still a bumpy road that still needs a
It's
lot of patching.
there's still a bumpy road. It still needs quite a few patches in
Yeah,
it.
like
I would personally
it
agree with.
it's somewhat similar to like 76, where it's like there's still a lot of work that needs to be done because it's not that good yet. It's still got a lot of bugs going on, but it's
Okay,
much more playable than what it was.
funny you should bring that up, Justin, because weird that you should mention 76. Going back to my point about some games I truly wish would die. I'm sorry, but 76 is on that list.
76 is not that good. Yeah, no, I mean, it's great to have an online Fallout game. That's something people have been wanting. They've even made mods and stuff like that for New Vegas. But
Oh no, I definitely see the
how
arguments.
Bethesda went about doing it is horrible. Not to
Yeah,
mention all of like the lore breaking shit they've put in. Like, God,
come, let's do.
they've broken the Brotherhood of Steel. I feel so bad for them. Like they're the one
I
faction that's gotten broken and slaughtered by Bethesda over the years.
yeah, no, I feel like the game itself, like I can see the market for it. I can see that there is certainly a want for a online for an online I forgot to say cyber
Hey,
second. All that
Fallout.
discussion on it. I can see the desire for an online fun, but I
It's
can
just
also see so egregiously where they went wrong with it. Like the
yeah.
way they did it was absolutely just horrendous.
Yeah. And I mean the other thing about it too is that like you gain strength against other players and you're constantly playing with other players. At least in Cyberpunk, you're not really playing against other players and you can't piss people off and have half of the player base leave because it's like, "All right, I'm done. I don't want to deal with cheaters."
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a purely solo experience, which is what CD Projekt Red is known for. The Witcher series is a proud example of it. The Witcher 3 being a very famous example of that actually. But where Bethesda put on the whole, hey, let's make basically Fallout 4's assets in an online setting, which is more or less what they did. Correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah,
Justin. Where they
no, it
basically,
is. A lot of people were able to get into like the dev room and stuff like that, and they basically found like so many assets from 4 that it's like, why? Like
like
it is basically a Fallout 4 port.
that's the thing. They basically just took Fallout 4, placed a multiplayer sticker on it, and that was that.
Yeah.
And that's not how you do things. But again, I just again, that is one game that I just really hope just
Kind of
because there's
lays
just there
down and gets forgotten.
accepts itself, accepts its fate, accept your fate. Um,
Like
there are no, I say that
they're
very
trying, but I mean, it's too
uh,
late for the most part. All that's really left is the people who just try to go and have fun with it.
and I mean if you're having fun with the game, God bless you. I shouldn't say that actually. Let me use something. Well, no, I'll use the term. I'm using an expletive here.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like they're enjoying it for what it is. Like it's not
You know, if you're
perfect, it's
having
not great,
fun,
but if you are having fun with it, with what something is, then that's kind of the whole purpose of a game is to just have fun for what it is and what you can do.
yeah, no, if you're having fun with the game, uh, great, good for you. You are certainly a very, I don't want to say No, if you're having fun with the game, that's all the better for you. This is not a game that is easy to have fun with, I would say, at least my
No,
personal opinion.
no. It's a very
But
grindy game.
if you're having fun with it, that's, good. I
Yeah,
would say that's very good. But, you know, I personally just hope this game just kind of
kind of moves on, and if
move on.
something replaces it, if anything.
Yeah, and I don't say that lightly because like I said, I really don't want any game to die. There are very few games that I truly do wish would end.
Yeah.
But, you
I
know.
mean, like it is, Cyberpunk's gotten some updates. It's in a better position than what it was,
Mhm.
and we'll see where it goes with that. I mean, no matter what, Sony's got some explaining to do, but we'll see about
Oh,
that.
they probably will never bring up why they truly did it.
No,
They're probably just going to stick to the script.
no.
Why? Because if they came out and said the truth, or what is we are all presuming mostly to be the truth, it would look very bad on them. Um,
Trade secrets, trade
yeah,
secrets. Be quiet,
trade
everyone.
secrets. If you want to knock Sony, knock their crossplay agenda, which is a whole other ball of marbles. But again, let us
Crossplay.
hope that, yeah. But again, let us hope that Cyberpunk gets back on its feet. At least I am hoping for it. Free DLC is promised down the line as well as major paid DLC, or at least I'm hoping it's major paid DLC. People are actually saying, this brings me to actually another point that I just thought of. Many people are actually kind of saying like, why is there such a holdup? At this point in The Witcher 3's life cycle, Heart of Stone had already come out, and that was a substantial uh, expansion as well as several free DLCs before it. So what's the holdup? I actually was thinking about this recently, and I think the whole reason they've been holding off, if they have been, which is I think they're waiting for it to come back on the PlayStation Store
Hmm.
so they can reach the largest audience with it. Because, I mean, if they put free DLC on and then it comes back to the store 2 months later, the hype that came from that free DLC's release is gonna not gonna be around as much anymore, so it's gonna
It's not gonna
taper
have
sales
that
somewhat.
much for it.
Yeah, which especially considering they're in the middle of several lawsuits and their kind of bottom line has been absolutely tanking as of late. They need all the cash they can get their hands on. So, um, I would say they're probably going to look for the best way to get the most bang for their buck in terms of reputation for the game, and waiting for the game to come back on all platforms would probably be the best way to do that. So I'm expecting there to be something to come out in the next month, maybe two, or at least several months, now that the game is back on the store
Hmm.
and they have the full market to them. Now they have the full market. So if you're wondering, should you purchase this game? Yes, after it gets a PS5 upgrade. Or if you have a PS5 now, if you're one of the lucky few to get it, again,
It depends on
you're
like
very
what you're really going for. Like if you're going for PC, then you should be fine no matter what.
if you're going for PC, then
Yeah.
yeah, play it if you want. It's a good experience. I would wait until there's at least one major DLC, or at least a few paid free DLCs.
Something to supplement the amount of payment for the game in the first place.
But if you're playing on console, I would wait until there's a next gen version of the upgrade
Yeah,
to come out.
yeah.
Me,
Cyberpunk
that's
Cyberpunk really feels like it's one of those games where it's kind of ahead of its technology.
I feel
Not
like they
not
just
by
kind of tried.
much, but like they're really pushing the consoles and stuff, like really pushing the how
Me,
far
I
it can go.
I feel like that the executives at CD were basically just like, hey, let's get this game out on all platforms, despite there being clear evidence that somewhere along the line this was a game meant for next generation, which wouldn't have been a problem. Usually most games work out like this, where you make a big game, it's very ambitious, and then you taper it down as development gets into the later stages to make it playable on more, you know, common hardware, and you taper out features that cannot be there. Somewhere along the line, they neglected to do that as much, and when it came to things like the graphical department as well as other things.
Didn't end so
So the
great.
game, yeah, among other things. And so the game is more meant to play on current, which wouldn't be a problem because the next gen consoles came out around that time. But because of the whole issue with, well,
Our
it
little
became
invisible,
quite,
well, not really invisible, but semi-invisible friend.
yeah, well, we all know what we're discussing. I'm hoping. I'm hoping.
If you know what microbiology is, then you're fine.
Yeah. Anyways, but because that happened, it became quite difficult to get a hold and production of consoles because, fun fact, it's hard to produce stuff in a factory setting during a time of
Everyone,
mass
everyone's
being
not
told to
able
stay
to
away from
work.
each other.
Yeah, everyone's not able to work. Resources are lowering because nobody's working and doing stuff. It's like, yeah.
So this caused a, shall we say, shortage of new units, and this was both a PS5 and Xbox Series X thing. But again, the fact still stands that because of this, shall we say, lack of supply, as well as our friendly neighborhood scalpers coming up and buying all the product up en masse, seeing an opportunity to profit. Which reminds me, I just saw an Xbox Series X last night going for over $1,000. It can be yours today. Please don't buy it. Please don't be that one person. Wait until it comes on sale. Um, don't feed them.
Don't.
Don't feed them.
Don't
Please don't give them
feed the
any incentive.
machine.
But yeah, it because of that, it was hard to get a hold of the more recent units, and because of that, there was more of a focus to stay on last gen consoles, which is kind of why both PlayStation as well as Xbox, despite Sony saying we are committed to generations, and then immediately unofficially backstepping on that by,
You know, not.
you know, not by seeing that that was really a dumb idea in retrospect. And so now most games are going to be, for at least a long time now, on one or two on Xbox Series X and Xbox and PS5 and PS4. And because the platforms were so hard to get a hold of, most people who played Cyberpunk played it either on PC, where the bugs were egregious. Everything else was not bad. If you played it on PS4, oh no 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 no.
Good
You could be
luck.
confused for playing it on a potato.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard some of the stuff that happened on PS4. It's good luck.
So it left a very sour taste in people's mouths because of it. Understandably so. If the game were purely a PS5, Xbox Series X exclusive, I'm sure it wouldn't have honestly launched as bad. It would have still been probably, no, certainly just as buggy, but the damage would have been somewhat mitigated because they would have focused primarily on basically optimizing the PS5 and Series X versions so there weren't A, as many bugs, and B, it ran better. Now, granted, it is said that even the developers themselves were basically surprised with how quick the release date was basically made, or shall I say, when the release date was supposed to be. In fact, there were stories going on. I believe it was Jason Schreier at Forbes who reported on this, who said basically the developers themselves literally found out about the release date the same day everyone else did in the public. And call me crazy, but usually you should tell your developers when their game's coming out
Yeah,
before you tell the rest of the world.
Yeah, usually the developers have a set date to finish and then a date to like make sure everyth's good.
But
So
the executives were just like, nah, we'll just tell them
we
all at the same
go.
time. In fact, the story goes that most of the developers that were listening to the live stream at the same time as the rest of the world actually thought it was a joke at first.
Yeah.
Because the game was nowhere near done. They thought they at least had another year and a half,
Well,
or at least another
wasn't
half
it
a year.
around April or something when was the press release thing?
I don't remember. I think it was like October or something like that. No, not October. It was before that. I
November
honestly
or
don't remember.
something? No,
Something like
not
that.
no, November's later than October.
No,
What am I
no, that was later.
saying?
That was later. That was later.
Yeah,
I think
so
it was
sometime around maybe June or
sometime,
August.
sometime between June and August, somewhere around there, I think. And they were literally shocked, and they honestly thought it was a joke. They thought they at least had another year, year and a half.
Hmm.
because that was just the state the game was in at that point, and they knew it was not good. But the executives were just like, nah, get out.
We go. Release it.
And ironically, what they assumed would be a massive payday turned to be a massive financial deprecation, because now they are paying out through the nose themselves in everything from legal fees to just basically lack of profit, because their bottom line is absolutely tanking, between tanking stocks and again legal fees. What
It's
they
just
assumed
not
would
too
be a
good.
massive payout turned out to be a massive paying through the nose experience for them instead of, my analogy has broken down over the course of this, but
Yeah,
you get the
it
picture.
didn't end well. It really didn't end well.
Yeah,
Like,
what they assumed would put them in the red, put them in the black bad.
yeah.
Or at least I'm assuming that's how it is. Black
I'm
is
pretty sure it didn't end well because I mean, as soon
no, it
as the developers were like notified, oh yeah, this is the date when we're finished at like at the same time everyone else was notified, it's like, that's not gonna end well.
And going back to those legal fees, or why are there legal fees? Well, again, if you haven't been following the industry, and with how Cyberpunk is, I wouldn't blame you for moving on, honestly. Most people have.
Yeah, a lot of people have.
Um, Basically, the whole shtick is that the stockholders of CD Projekt Red, the developers of Cyberpunk, have sued them
Hmm.
for basically lying to their faces. Why is that? Well, fun fact, it's illegal to officially, on official meetings or official, statements, to lie to your investors' faces.
To
That
go
is
and say you're gonna do something and then never do it.
well, the whole shtick was that the CEO of CD Projekt Red, Adam Kowinski, I think his name is, said in a shareholders meeting that the game ran surprisingly well on base console.
Mm.
Now, anyone who's played the game on base consoles knows that that was
Just a bit of
a
a lie.
gross exaggeration of the truth. But this little, shall we say, reassurance from the CEO was enough to get the shareholders, shall we say, somewhat alleviated in their concerns, and their stocks went up. Only for everyone to be promptly surprised, quite horribly, mind you, and the shareholders to be understandably rather livid, because they thought they were going to get a massive payday, and instead they
Got lied.
massively tanked. So now the shareholders are suing CD Projekt Red for basically lying to their faces, and many lawsuits have uh,
Just
congealed, I believe is the proper word. Forgive me, couldn't think of it for a
I
second.
mean, no matter what, it ended very badly, and the fact that they lied like that just did not help them.
Did not help them into one massive lawsuit, and so now there is one massive lawsuit from their investors. And side note, it is very bad when your investors are the ones suing you.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Anyone who's
saying
seen
something on its
Activision
own.
and anyone who's seen Activision and EA's investor calls knows that they have no scruples with what they're doing. So, yeah, how you how you annoy your investors? Step one: lie to their faces about their money.
Step two, watch the
Wait.
lawsuit.
Yeah. Step two: wait. Um. So now they're paying massive legal fees in this lawsuit, and honestly, there really is no. And honestly, I never thought I'd live to say this, but I agree with the investors. Yeah, never thought I'd live to say that one.
Well, I mean, the investors do have a point no matter what. It's like they literally point blank said this was working, and then it's like it wasn't working. It's like,
Yeah, it was.
what do you mean
There's
it's
a
not working?
there's a lot of evidence that CD's staff, at least as far as the developers were concerned, knew just how bad the game was.
Well, I mean, they were
But
making the game, and they were like, "Well, you're making us release this now?"
yeah, the investors, not the investors, the developers clearly knew how bad the game was. Now, whether the executives knew this or not is most certainly yes. Whether they
Hmm.
acknowledged this or not, or cared, I should say, is a whole other story. I think this is a trend set with things, for example, Destiny 2, not Skyforge, No Man's Sky,
Yeah, yeah. No Man's Sky
where
would
these
definitely.
massive games got released. They were anything but what they were promised, but they were able to turn themselves around into massive critical darlings. No Man's Sky and Destiny 2 again, or just even
I mean,
Destiny 1.
Fallout 76 is literally the
Please
best
don't bring that
example.
again.
I'm just saying, it's the best example. It's
How is that a
literally
good example of a game turning itself around?
turning itself around, as in, terrible. We're such a good game. Terrible.
No, that's not the. No, you missed my point, my friend. The point is that there's this precedent set in the game industry of games that get released half baked, half finished, and half done.
And
Well,
then
basically the same
they
thing, the last
expect
two.
people to go and get it, and then it's like, oh yeah, we'll fix it later.
Oh no, it's not that they'll fix it later. It's just that they know if they fix it later and they do it, fix it well enough that they can turn it around and to be critical darlings. Again, look at Destiny 1. The original Destiny 1 vanilla was bereft of content. I should know. I played the
Well,
Destiny franchise since
Well, I
Destiny
mean, that's
beta.
the thing. It was believed that a lot of the DLCs were originally going to be the base game content. It became DLC instead.
hmm
Like,
hmm
it's not kind of how it works, but I mean, it turned around
Well,
eventually.
I'm not too sure about that one. I haven't heard much about that in
I
truth
don't
about
know.
the
I
whole.
don't know exactly how much, but like, I know for one thing, I'm pretty sure the first and second DLC at the very least were meant to be base game content because one guy who left like had a storyboard for it all to go and blend together. I don't know. I
Well,
don't know
that
how
just
it
means
how
they
it
had it
turned
in.
out,
That just
but
means they have it in. I mean, in fairness, man, that just means they had it in production.
yeah.
But I do know this. D1 Vanilla was bereft of content, and it was basically mocked for basically having no content, which in truth it did at the time. But it turned around and became a massive multi-hit franchise and became a very beloved game. D2, funny enough, Activision never learns. Weird, huh?
Hmm.
Pulled the exact same stunt with D2 and just like D1 became a massive critical darling. No Man's Sky, probably patient zero of the whole trend if I'm being honest, if my memory
Probably.
is correct.
Probably.
It promised the world, delivered a rock, and over time and a lot of updates managed to get to what it promised and everyone loves it now. It's setting this precedent in the game industry that if they just released a game half, it doesn't matter how they release a game, maybe half finished and half baked, so
As
long as they
long as
just
it's
get it
released.
eventually to where it is. Not so long as they can get it to where it was promised to be later, it's fine.
Yeah.
And it'll be fine. Problem is, that doesn't work with everything.
It doesn't work that well, but why not?
that that sets a very dangerous precedent, as we see again. Things like Marvel's Avengers, going back to that rabbit hole.
Huh.
It's a game that released half finished, half baked, and is still half finished and half baked. And no matter how much DLC you put out, it's probably still not going to be what everyone likes because the difference between a success story and redemption arc of a game being finished or released half baked and becoming a massive success is, are the base bones and base gameplay loop compelling? For example, I'm sure if they stuck with Anthem and went along with the whole Anthem 2.0 shtick, it might have actually redeemed itself. I would gladly have admitted to the game of me being wrong and the game actually turning around. Because everyone said the same thing. The base gameplay is very good and very addicting. It's just that, you know, there's nothing to do.
Yeah.
The same thing with Destiny and the same thing with No Man's Sky. Well, not No Man's Sky. They revamped it quite a bit,
Yeah,
but
No Man's Sky has a lot now, actually.
yeah, they have a lot now, actually, truth be told. But, the base gameplay loop has to be compelling. You can't just release just anything half baked and half finished. Not that you should to begin with, but
I mean, if
if
you're
it comes
going
down to
to,
it, if you're going to,
like, if you're
you need
crunched
to
for
at least,
time, then
yeah, if you're crunched for time, I would never say release anything half baked. Finish it or don't. But if you are going to, you have to, at the bare minimum, have a compelling gameplay loop that is a good idea with a good mechanical system based around it that keeps people coming back. And not in the microtransaction addicting way, but in an actual, hey, this is fun. I would like to play more of this kind of way. Again, I point to Anthem. As everyone likes to, knock Anthem and beat the dead horse, so to speak. if they had gone around with Anthem 2.0, I'm sure it would have may have very, very well redeemed itself. But as anyone who knows EA's motto knows, EA is not someone who sticks around when things are unprofitable.
This is no longer profitable.
I agree. I mean, just look at all the studios that have failed to deliver after they put monumentous amounts of basically
Promise
demand on
into
them.
it.
Yeah. They basically are like, hey, look at Visceral Studios in the Dead Space series. Dead Space was very good. I never played Dead Space. I'm just told it's good. Why? Because I don't play horror. But it is a very good series from what I've seen and from
Yeah,
what I've heard.
Dead Space was a very good game for what it brought.
Hmm. For
Like,
what it brought to the table in terms of horror. But after EA acquisition of Visceral Studios, it became more and more microtransactions. Funny enough, actually, there was during the time of Dead Space's 2's development, I believe, or maybe it was 3, there was an interview with someone who was developing kind of the microtransactions or kind of in-game purchases of the game. Not microtransactions at the time; they were just kind of just. Oh, they might have been. It's been a long time, but basically, he said that a lot of the things that were used in that game, to kind of paraphrase from vague memory, was a lot of the stuff you see in MOBAs. So basically, MOBAs was a testing ground for what they were using in those games. And weirdly enough, that was probably the most transparent statement and most honest statement the video game industry has to this day ever given us. And that was back in the early 2000s when it comes to microtransactions. What
yes.
happens in MOBA and becomes profitable will eventually become in modern mainstream gaming. Why? Because MOBAs are a test bed for modern microtransactions.
There's two types of MOBAs. There's the clickbaity MOBAs that don't go anywhere, and of course will draw people in because people who have nothing to do will go to them. And then there's the good games that actually bring quality content that end up like really drawing people in.
Hmm. Basically, they said they were just mimicking what was happening in MOBAs because that was profitable in the MOBA. So they thought, hey, they might as well do it in Dead Space because they thought they'd make some change out of it. And again, weirdly enough, that's probably the most transparent and kind of, yeah, the most transparent statement we've ever gotten out of the video game industry in nearly a decade.
Mm.
Well, actually, more than a decade now that I think about it. So there you go. But again, going back to the original topic, trying not to get too sidetracked here.
Hmm.
Too much sidetracked too often, I should say. Is that if you're gonna do it and release a game half finished, at the very least, you need to have something compelling and something legitimately fun to play. If you don't, even if you patch the game up as much as you want and fix every single bug there is, nobody's gonna come back to it.
No, no, people won't come back to a game too easily like that. You gotta bring an actual reason for people to want to come to a game and all that in the first place. And it's like if you're not gonna really draw people into it, then it's like, yeah,
Yeah, but unfortunately, the game industry can only see dollars and cents. So if it's profitable, it's a success, even if it isn't a great game.
yeah.
FIFA, I'm looking at you. Um, but again, that's a whole other story for a whole other time. Oh my goodness, look at the time. We've ranted on about the second topic for
Yeah,
devil knows how long.
we're about an hour.
About an hour. Ladies and gentlemen, we probably only we these podcasts are we're trying to make these podcasts an hour.
Hmm.
If you want more, if you want less, tell us and we'll see if we can accommodate.
Yeah, we might be able to go and make it an hour and a half, 2 hours
Yeah,
at the
two
most,
hours.
probably.
Yeah, 1.5, 2 hours.
We don't want to be doing 24 hours. That is for sure. So don't ask for that. We
Oh, come now. I'm sure they don't want to hear our voice. Our beautiful voices talking for 24 hours would be a gift to the internet.
uh, but
But
I guess we can finish off here because our third topic is just kind of a backup, and that's something
well,
we can bring up for a later date because there's a good amount that you can go into that one.
yeah, there's a decent amount. It was gonna be, for those who are wondering, it was gonna be the whole about Halo Infinite and how that's going on.
Yeah.
But in fairness, there's not much news on Halo Infinite right now. It
The
didn't appear at
game,
E3, which is a little surprising.
oh, I think it did appear in E3 at
Oh
one
no,
point,
wait, no, it
but
did appear. It
yeah,
did appear this year at E3. Correction, I.
it's
It
just
appeared quite massively, actually.
it's cutscene or not gameplay, but
It was basically just
whatever.
multiplayer.
Yeah, whatever it was mostly multiplayer plus like a little
A
cutscene like
cutscene
thing
from the game.
for the actual game.
Which...
But I mean, campaign-wise, it's as vague as it's going to be. The only real information we got was the original trailer, and that's it.
Which is it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, they're taking the stuff that happened in Halo Wars 2 and bringing that in, and I mean that's pretty good. They're kind of connecting the games together on that front, trying to get all the story bits together. But
I think if we're gonna do that for another video, we'll save that story for another.
yeah, well,
If
we can save
that'll be a
that.
story for another video.
What we can do for the moment, though, is kind of give people a good understanding on what we'll be doing on this lovely channel
yes!
podcasting.
Of course, thank you, mon ami. In this in the midweek report, and probably we should have opened up with this. Actually.
Oh, we opened up a bit about it.
Oh, we opened up a bit about it, but yeah. We'll be doing entertainment news based around mostly the gaming industry, our own thoughts and opinions on what's going on, and maybe a few reactions to things every now and then if things go good, because, you know, we will try and hopefully be informative about the video game industry, its decisions and whatnot.
We'll try to be like as up to date as we possibly can with a lot of things.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
we for the most part we're going to be going and like taking what's going on in a game, and we might go and put our own thoughts into what's going on, or how we think things might turn out.
How we think things might turn out, how we'd like things to turn out.
Yeah.
Preferably.
But we're gonna be going and pretty much just talking about a whole bunch of games and what's going on with those, and seeing what happens with there.
Just basically that. We'll be giving our thoughts, our opinions, and hopefully, thoughts, opinions, and updates on big events and whatnot in the gaming industry. So if EA collapses itself into a black hole, you'll be first to hear about it from us.
Yep.
We can only hope.
We'll see. We will see.
Let's not get our hopes too high. But yeah, so basically, a video game news channel which gives thoughts, opinions, and commentary on the most recent game events, or as far as we can get, because we do stream primarily, mostly.
We'll be planning to stream mostly on Wednesdays, and we'll try to be consistent at 12 o'clock.
Yeah. We'll be trying to be consistent at 12 o'clock. Again, apologies for today. We had technical issues with my mic specifically. Our recording software was just not agreeing with me today.
Yeah.
So we had to do quite a bit of finagling, but eventually we got it working. So you lovely people on the internet can hear our lovely voices. I like the thing. And if it is not, please do not tell me.
Don't discourage us.
Don't
put down our egos and hopes and dreams.
Our egos, hopes and dreams. I wouldn't say egos. Well, hopefully not egos.
Hopefully.
Hopefully
after 5 years becoming super popular, my ego is 100.
Ego 100. Ego max stat.
But yeah, we'll be doing a fair amount of game based topics.
Yeah,
we might bring up some movies and stuff occasionally.
We might bring up some movies and stuff like that. Try and branch out if you lovely folks think that we should be branching out. We might every once in a while, just on a tangent.
Yeah, but for the most part, we're gonna be basically just games. What's gonna be happening in them, and well, how we at least think things might be going horribly or perfectly.
Yeah, depending.
All right.
So if you're talking to your friends about what this channel is about, somewhere between entertainment, comedy, and news.
Yep. And
I think we'll leave it at that, right?
Yeah. Well, hopefully you all enjoyed. We'll see you in the next one then. Have a good one.
And in the words of the immortal Red Green, remember, I'm pulling for you, and we're all in this together. Have a good one.